Greetings and welcome to this OVO vlog. I'm Dean Herring and I'm really glad you could join us today for a summary of the first day of the Business Innovation Factory's Collaborative Innovation Summit held in Providence, Rhode Island, October 10th and 11th, 2007. The goal of the summit was to let great people tell great stories. Rather than give a few people an hour and a half and suffer through death by PowerPoint, they gave each storyteller 15 minutes to share how they catalyzed change. The organizers also provided generous breaks so that people could get together and connect, both with the storytellers and with each other. Before the meeting started, I asked two people, one a first-time presenter and blogger, Ewan Semple, and the second a person who's been to this summit before, Jeff DeCagna, and his blogging, what we should expect from the conference.
It just seems like a great format. I think they've attracted a great bunch of people, and I spent a lot of my time talking at conferences, and they vary enormously from very staid, conventional, staged events to open space, make it up as you go along sort of stuff. And this seems like a good in between point. And
you like the format here, as opposed to standing in front and doing PowerPoints and stuff.
And the fact that they're focusing on stories. And I'm going to enjoy being able to tell some of the stories behind what we did, which otherwise
should be right. Now, how many times have you done this summit?
That's my first time.
This is your first time.
Yeah.
So you're here with the rest of us wondering what's it going to be like. Now you're a speaker, so you know a little bit more.
I'm second as well.
Right.
So I've got very little chance to see what everybody else is doing first.
Right.
So yeah.
All right. Well, great. Well, good luck today. Thanks so much for talking. Okay, Jeff. So what's going to be great about this conference?
The question, Dean, is what's not going to be great about this conference. Everything's going to be great about this conference. BIF Innovation Factory, Business Innovation Factory Summit 2 last year, where I blogged, was superb. And I know that this year's lineup of storytellers and the audience is going to be fantastic. Lots of great content, lots of great networking. It's going to be a really fun time.
As Jeff said, we were gathered in the Trinity Rep, a historic theater in Providence, Rhode Island. In addition to the crowd, there were several rows of bloggers. Our role was to blog, both real-time and afterwards, to help provide a context and a summary for what happened at the summit. Saul Kaplan, the founder of the Business Innovation Factory, served as master of ceremonies, introducing the other hosts and speakers. Our first storyteller was Matt Cottom. Matt described a project he had with the Department of Defense to develop a high-fidelity human casualty model for medics. The first thing he ran into was, how do you actually ask questions to people when you don't understand the subject matter? And so, taking a page from the IDEO handbook, he decided to become an EMT, eventually becoming an EMT cardiac and an advanced life support medic for the National Ski Patrol. What he discovered was he didn't become a better designer just by studying medicine. He became a better designer by getting intimately involved with the people that medics interact with on a daily basis. By getting involved in understanding those people, he became a much better innovator. Our next storyteller was Ewan Semple, whom we met earlier in this vlog. Ewan started by describing a medical problem he had that his doctor couldn't properly diagnose. Ewan got on the web and located other people who had similar conditions and was able to piece together the diagnosis that did solve his problem. During the course of this exercise, he realized that the gatekeeper approach, where one person has all the information, was not the most effective way to solve problems or to innovate. During this time, he was the head of knowledge management solutions at the BBC, where they speak 47 different languages, and communicating using the traditional business way, rather than on an emotional level, was not effective there either. So Ewan created Talk.Gateway, an online social network for all 30,000 employees of the BBC network. He wanted employees to take responsibility for making the system work, so he decided to ask for forgiveness rather than for permission. He didn't get approval from upper-level management, and he didn't involve the IT department. Today, 23,000 of the 30,000 people on the BBC network use his system. I think this story emphasizes a common theme we heard at the conference. Making connections, especially social human connections at the emotional level, is a very effective mechanism for innovating.
We're accustomed to hearing stories of innovation, from business people that are trying to create new products, and new services. But to hear a story of innovation from one of our country's best police chiefs, and the passion with which Dean is completely changing the way he approaches policing, for me, was a story from an unusual place, which really forced me to think differently about innovation and how you connect the dots.
Say in my business, fix a ticket and make up time a lot.
Colonel Dean Esserman, police chief of Providence, did a marvelous job telling his story. His main point was that crime is personal and you call who you know when something happens to you. A generation ago, he said, the police gave us 911, which was going to stop crime and make things better. The police became anonymous. The reason that a number on the badge is mandatory is because you don't know the police. Colonel Esserman has taken steps in Providence to make sure people know their policeman, to know and love the person in the uniform, not the uniform itself. Coupled with giving the police back to the people and an honest mayor, his strategy seems to be working. Crime is down 5%. It's at its 1970s level in Providence, while crime in Rhode Island and everywhere else is up. Colonel Esserman says he will be successful when he asks, "Who's your family cop?" and people are able to answer him. Knowing your customer at a personal level, like knowing your beat cop, is essential to innovation. Jason Fried from 37 Signals was up next. We've been fans of 37 Signals for several years, and I was really looking forward to hearing him. Walt Mossberg, who for 16 years has written the personal technology column for the Wall Street Journal, interviewed Jason. Jason had some excellent points about innovating, starting with their mantra of enemies of mediocrity. He said it's more important to keep product features out than it is to put them in. Walt challenged Jason about the reality of balancing feature creep and self-selecting customers, and Jason replied with what would become one of the themes of the summit. When everyone works on everything, it stinks. Companies have to stand for something and say no to feature creep and say no to self-selecting customers and produce products and services that resonate with the people who need them and don't resonate with the people who don't. Jason said lots of people hate us and lots of people hate Apple, and that's the way they want it. If what we have works for you, great. If not, you need to go somewhere else. It was refreshing to see Jason and others at the summit advocating for not dumbing things down in order to satisfy everyone. Know your customers, know what they value, and keep things simple. Don't add extra features and extra services to try and please everyone. One of the most effective things about the summit was the use of long, generous breaks. For example, we broke from Jason at 9:55 and didn't reconvene until 10:40. At a lot of conferences, the leaders have short breaks, and they make them shorter if they get behind schedule. Finally, somebody gets that the networking breaks are really where the action is. It was a chance to catch up with people trying to innovate in their organizations. After all, getting authors and famous people is great for attracting a crowd, but getting people who can actually go back and do because of what they experience is the mark of a successful conference. I caught up with several people, ranging from an over 100-year-old machine parts company to people from Hasbro and one of the developers of Lipitor. These are the people who are on the ground making innovation work in their organizations. Meeting them, hearing their stories, their needs, and their takes on the conference was every bit as valuable as listening to the speech.